here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest this week. It's going to be the turn of the bassist, guitarist, songwriter. It's the one and only Shaun Ward, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love and poetry. Was in various bands, including Floy Joy, who had an amazing album out in the early 80s, Into the Hot, and they released a single which was titled Burn Down a Rhythm, which was fantastic. Single of the week in the NME, and after that particular musical adventure, he also appeared on the Simply Red album Stars and has done lots of musical projects ever since that you're going to find out about in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Shaun, it's over to you.
Well, I mean, for me, like I say, my brother, who I tried to hook you up with, but we haven't gone on for a while, my brother and I. He got me into jazz and soul and funk, and also I was into Zeppelin, and I used to Skype school and go and roadie for down the Sheffield City Hall for all these bands, Black Sabbath and all these, and we used to knock on the door at when we were sort of 15 and say, can we, and say to the roadies, can we run any errands for you? And they'd say, all right, geezer, yeah, of course you can. And so for that, they would let us into them and Queen, and they'd let us watch the sound checks, and they'd let us meet the bands on occasion, so for me, and then and then of course, when I saw Zeppelin, and I thought, well, God, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, man.
Yes, well, absolutely. That was one. So you were quite young at that stage of sort of playing truant.
Oh yeah. I mean, no, not every day. I mean, I did a few qualifications, but yeah, I was for me it was playing truant. I love that for old phrase. And then I was lucky enough to I was playing bass at that time, just started playing piano. And I started working in the working men's clubs, when I was 16, 17. And then from there, it sort of, it just rose, it just gathered from there. And then I was offered gigs. Are we recording now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
It's all happening. I'm following the conversation. So,
okay.
did you have an older brother or an older sister that influenced you at all?
Yeah,
these are often very kind of influential people in life.
Yeah, Mike Ward. Yeah, he was very influential in my life. And he played saxophone. Yeah, and also very successful songwriter. He's written subsequently. I mean, we put Floy Joy together, and then he's gone on to write for lots of people. Take That, and lots of different.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
and did your parents? I mean, obviously having two musical children is quite something, isn't it? At that stage, who both actually made a career in music, not just a few years or a decade, but a lifetime.
Decades is the right word, yeah.
Yes, but did they sort of encourage or sort of give you some enthusiasm for sort of playing music?
Absolutely, yeah. They did. They encouraged. I used to look in the back of the Melody Maker. You may remember this. You look a lot younger than you actually are. By the way, I mean, but. I'm 5 years older than you. You're 64. I was born in 59.
Right.
I remember back in those days there was the Melody Maker.
Yes.
And there used to be Situations Vacant. When printed press was a thing.
Well, absolutely. That was our go-to internet, wasn't it? Really.
Yes, it was. And my mother used to drive me to the train station and put me on the train to London, and I'd be going in for auditions. So
And why the bass guitar? What was the reason for that? Because normally people get a classical guitar which they can't play because the strings are too hard or too difficult. Often it's a bit of a disaster, isn't it, in those days of playing music? But how did the bass appear?
well, my brother played saxophone, and I didn't really want to play a wind instrument or a reed instrument. So I said, "What would you play?" And he said, "I'd play a bass." If I was, because he was into soul music, funk, James Brown, and and all that kind of. He said I'd play. So I had a paper round, and I'd saved up sort of like 20 quid, from this paper round, and I went down and I bought this bass which was nailed together with. Literally nailed together, and I picked up. I got this bass from one of these second-hand shops, and I started playing, and then it just sort of grew from there.
Yes, that's amazing. Actually, you mentioned funk. I think 2 nights ago I did an interview with a guitarist who was in Funkadelic during that sort of mid.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, who played on that album, which One Nation Under a Groove,
Oh,
and then
wow.
and he played he was the lead guitarist on Who Says a Funk Band Can't Play Rock. He sort of did the guitar, and I was talking to him about Bootsy Collins and
Oh, man, Bootsy was one of my first influences, man. In fact, he just led me on to another story. Recently, I played with a friend of mine with George Clinton, and I was, with George Clinton featured on a track, with Michael Richie Stevens. Yeah. So I mean, that was one of the.
That was it. Yes, he was. Yes, that sounded. I mean, I luckily saw, George Clinton. I don't know what was it. The band was called, but it was George Clinton with the whole troupe of them, in sort of about '89, and it was just absolutely mind blowing.
Oh, wonderful, man! What did you oh, man, that's great. I mean, that was, playing like Bootsy and stuff, and what kind all those guys because bass was. And at that time, bass started to be featured, and then there was, of course, Chic with Bernard Edwards.
Yes.
Who was and also a wonderful. But apart from George Clinton, and Bootsy, Bernard Edwards, and I could name lots, and.
What about Jaco Pastorius?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, Jacko again. Weather Report. Fantastic. Jacko again was one of my. I used to sit by my record player, but even pre-CDs.
Yes, well, absolutely.
And put the album on and just keep putting it back, put the needle back, just to cop a few licks here and there.
Amazing. So when you got to that 70, so I'm doing the maths here. When you got to 16, that was 1975, and you mentioned sort of Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So did you leave school at sort of 75, 60, your age of 16, and start playing music, or did you continue on in the world of education?
No, well, no, I didn't. I started to do my A levels, and then I was offered a gig with a band in Leeds. I just went for an audition, and so I quit. I went back to university later on in life. I'll come.
Yes.
But no, I from then I just went on the road. Then I moved to London, and then I moved to Miami, and then I came back to Sheffield when Mike and I put Floy Joy together, and then we went back to Detroit and did the Burn Down. We did the Into the Hot.
Wow, that was a lot of movement there. So did you, at that stage, because Sheffield, obviously, there was a compilation which Cherry Red Records put together a few years ago, which had the kind of Sheffield scene. I think it was a 3 CD box set. And it was all this very avant-garde music, electronic sounds and sort of dance floor stuff. Were you kind of were you part of that scene at the sort of late 70s?
Well, we kind of were. My brother and I touched on. I don't know if there was a band called Clock DVA on this, Cherry. I don't know.
Oh yes, there was definitely Clock DVA.
Clock DVA. Well, Mike and I played with Clock DVA. My brother and I played with Clock DVA for a short while, along with David Palmer, who's been the drummer with Rod Stewart for such a long time now. And but we weren't really, I mean, there was ABC, the Human League, all those, but we weren't really, we were more the funk side of things, but and the industrial.
Yes, because I think on this one you had people like, there was like Human League, wasn't there, and Heaven 17, and sort of these, and there was a lot of sort of that avant-garde sort of stuff as well that was kind of going around. Yeah, and there was the goth scene as well, like Dance Society, ABC.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
people like that, Clock DVA. I'm just reading all the tracks that are on this collection of stuff, and even the Thompson Twins is on there as well. So there must be. So there was a lot of. Did you feel like that Sheffield was sort of quite a happening scene at that point?
Well, I mean, when you look at it in retrospect, it was a happening scene. But at the time, you don't really think about what's. You just think about what you're doing at the time, and then. I mean, there was a pub called the Washington, and we'd all be rehearsing in, sort of different little hovels around that place, around the Washington, which was a great little pub. And everybody used to say, after we'd finished rehearsing, and there'd be the Human League sitting in one corner, before Heaven 17, and then there'd be all these bands, and we'd be griping at each other.
Yes, absolutely. with youthful, arrogance and disdain.
There you go, youthful arrogance. So, after that, I just.
But then you went to Leeds, which is kind of where there was this art school rock pop, and then goths was sort of developing really in Leeds, wasn't it?
I was playing with working men's clubs at that time, which was great for me. And then after Mike and I finished, we did the album, Floy Joy album, I split and I put my own band together called Everyday People. I don't know if you're aware of that. We had a few.
Oh, yes, I can see. You've got your Everyday People, which you've got an album, which is You Wash, I'll Dry.
That's You Wash, I'll Dry, yeah.
Yes.
And then from there, we had quite a lot of success, well, especially in Europe. But then I was asked to do the Simply Red album.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, the Stars album.
Oh, my God. So just before we get into the 90s, going back then, so look, 79, Thatcher gets in, then we have the Falkland War, the Miners' Crisis, Green and Common, we think we're going to be nuked. Music, there was a bit of a post-punk sound, wasn't there, on the indie scene after punk, and then there was a sort of a rise of, I suppose, a lot of the dance music started. There was the Blitz Kids, there was goth rock, there was, and there was bands like Sade started to appear, didn't they? And Robin Miller was the go-to producer for various ones, and then Trevor Horn was another producer for another sound.
Yeah.
So how did Floy Joy come about? Because this was from sort of 82, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So quite an interesting time to have a kind of a rather funky light pop combo, really.
Well, we tried to make the album as diverse as we could. I mean, my brother especially was more into jazz, being a saxophone player. Obviously, he was more into the Mingus side of things. I was more into the sort of funk sort of era, the funk area of stuff. And so we, and so we chose Don Was from Was Not Was.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Excellent.
And we went to Detroit to record the album, and which was an amazing experience.
I would imagine, actually. Did at that stage had he released that? Was he the big sort of producer at that point? Had he done? What did he do? A song called "Walking the Dinosaur"?
Yeah, but that came probably much later. They Was Not Was, which both my brother and I loved because it encapsulated all the stuff that we loved, the rock, the funk, the jazz, the soul, the whole gamut, if you like,
Yes.
and So and they had 3 albums out. The first Was Not Was album, the Blue album, and we just loved, and the poetry in that whole album, in those, between, I mean, David was and Don was. David has been really underrated in that partnership, if you like. David Weiss, they call them David Was and Don Was, but it was actually David Weiss and Don Fagenson.
Yes.
And Don, I mean, everything, the first 3 albums, we just saw it was amazing the way that the hybrid of all the stuff that we love. Like I say, as Duke Ellington said, only 2 types of music, good and bad. And these guys, for us, so we convinced Virgin Records to send us to Detroit.
Yes, well, I mean, it's quite amazing the production you've got on that album and the amount of people that also appear. So had you done a demo and were playing live and then got a fantastic record deal with Virgin at this stage?
Well, we just, as in those days, David, you sent a cassette tape off to record companies, and the record companies then would invite you, into London to record, just to make sure you could play and you could do it. And actually, quite a funny story is, I'm sure you're going to edit this, but it was Richard Branson. All the bands that Virgin offered deals to used to do. They used to do their demos on a barge in Little Venice.
Right.
It's called the Barge, which was a demo studio. And Branson actually came on. Richard Branson actually came on when we were doing the demo, and he just went. He's quite an obscure guy, Richard Branson. I don't know if you've ever met him. He's in. Oh, I really like this. I'm going to sign you tomorrow. So then we got a deal so Virgin offered us a deal, and we tried a few producers in London, and it didn't work out. So we said, well, we want to be produced by Was Not Was. So they said, okay, after a bit of cajoling. No, actually, they didn't say okay. They said, no way. Jeremy Lascelles was our A&R.
Oh, Jeremy Lascelles, because I've done interviews with his brother James Lascelles, who was in a much more of a jazz and funky kind of various combo, including the Global Village Trucking Company in the 70s.
Oh, really?
Yes, and he mentioned this brother who obviously was the one. I think James Lascelles was something like 18th.
In line for the throne.
Yes, you know the story. I know it's amazing. And he's still going. He still does his radio show, and he still probably plays
James or Jeremy that does
James is the one who still does his little radio show, and he's into global music and playing his kind of. He's still got a little band, and he's still doing his stuff. That's James.
That's James.
Because there's a brilliant. I must send you. Okay, it's a brilliant little documentary of this band, the Global Village Trucking Company. They live in a community. This is the 70s, very hippie in Suffolk, and there's this little boy who's the brother, who's Jeremy, who's the manager of the band, and yes. And when you see it, it's very much of its time. There's all these long-haired men, getting stoned.
Excellent. You'll have to send me.
I will, because when you watch it, you'll just go, "Oh my God!" And yes, Jeremy is the boy, the little youngest kid who
is he actually a brother of Jeremy's, or is he?
So Jeremy's the brother of James Lascelles.
Okay, all right. Right. I mean, but Jeremy was dead against it. I mean, he was. There was Simon Draper, who was the MD, and then there was Jeremy, and I think Jeremy was. I think Simon Draper was a second cousin of Richard Branson, actually. But anyway, it was down in Vernon Yard, and it was a very funky sort of. It just when Virgin had almost just opened, and so they. And so they were dead set against us, and Jeremy actually said, we're not sending you over there. They're all acid heads over there. And we went, great.
Sign
so
us up.
So we found out where Don was, my brother and I, and we used our publishing advance, and and he was staying in the Mayflower Hotel, and I don't know how we found out where he was, and then he was doing some production work in New York, and then so we knocked on his door and just presented him with a cassette tape. And he said, and then he came down to the bar after about an hour after he listened to it, and he said, "I love it. I want to do it." So then we managed to talk Virgin into doing it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Was that before? So then, did you record "Burn Down a Rhythm"?
Yeah.
Right. And what was, and how did that song come about? And were you surprised when it got Single of the Week in the NME?
Oh, it was. How did it come about? Well, it was my brother and I. Sort of, we were, because my brother was the main lyricist, and I wrote the music, but he was the lyricist, and I started playing this thing called a Chapman stick, which is a 10-stringed instrument, and it was boom, 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 bat, bat, boom, bat, boom, because I was a big fan, of Tony Levin at the time.
Oh yes, Levin with that whole Peter Gabriel period.
Peter Gabriel, yeah. And Tony Levin had just started playing the Chapman stick, so I was going boom, boom, and so that's where "Burn Down Rhythm" came from. I didn't end up playing that on the album. I played.
No. And how did you get? And your vocalist? How did you get your vocalist?
Carol. Well, that's an interesting story, actually, because Carol wasn't supposed to be the vocalist. We went to America with a different vocalist called Benita Turner, but Benita got ill when we were there in New York. In Detroit, and so she had to. She became quite ill, and so we tried. So we used all the background vocalists from What's Not What's, who were amazing. But we took the monitor mixers. You know what monitor mixers are, don't you?
Yeah.
Pre-mix, pre-mastering, and then we took them back to London, and they tried, and we had this fantastic girl called Carol Kenyon singing on them, but she'd just signed a deal with Canada, this Canadian label, who wanted a ridiculous amount to release her.
Right.
So Mike and I were stuck with, not stuck. We had to find a singer at that point.
Who was Elena Harris then? I thought she was your vocalist.
No, Elena Harris. No. You see, my brother, I don't know if you can edit this out, David, but my brother was very picky about singers. Elena Harris couldn't, she had a tuning problem.
Right, okay. But there was she appears on your, on your sort of story of the band.
Elena Harris. Yeah, well, yeah. So, and then, yeah.
So it was Carol who's on it.
Carol Thompson, the Queen of Lovers Rock.
Yes. So at that stage, 84, did you feel like you were sort of part of that new zeitgeist of sort of smooth soul jazz?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We kind of did, but yeah, we did. But it just never really. I mean, it sort of, like you said, it got, and then, but it didn't make that much of an impression on the charts. But it made enough of an impression, and the second single, I think, was "Till You Come Back to Me." And then my brother and I had a little bit of a...
So with the album, though, I mean, it's a hell of a amazing personnel on it, aren't there? I mean, there are just everybody that you could have
the whole
found.
World.
I mean, there was trumpet players, violin players. I mean, saxophone. It's guitarists, drummers. I mean, it's. Can you remember much about it? Did you record most of it in the studio during that time?
In Detroit, yeah. And the funny thing, again, quite interesting is we were doing the twilight sessions because we'd decided to do it in Detroit, and then Don was he booked us in, so we started at 10 o'clock in the evening until 5 o'clock in the morning, and we used to get an amazing. The trumpet player on Burn Down a Rhythm is a guy called Marcus Belgrave, who played with Charles Mingus.
Right.
And then there was Larry Frantangelo, who played with, as you mentioned, played with Funkadelic, Louis Resto, all these amazing players, and Sweet Pea Atkinson on vocals, who got arrested. He was an amazing singer, and Harry Bowens, who did all the arrangements for the stylistics. I mean, I was in awe,
Yeah, well, it must have been a hell of a. And how long did that session, the album, take to record?
About a month and a half, 2 months.
Right. God, I mean, it was like, it does sound amazing still. I mean, when that came out, when you released it, did you go on a tour, or did you get, go around the country and tour it? And did you, I mean, I would imagine in that London, the Face, the post Blitz Club, that kind of whole stylized scene. Everyone looks very groovy in the band, with very sort of big hair. It was all very.
That was just me.
and we were starting to get that. There was a scene there, wasn't there? Did you sort of feel you got a good sort of following at this stage, or?
Yeah, when we did the tours, I mean, there was a great, and we always had a good audience, and we were very big around London, the Wag Club and all those places, and we kind of like fit the bill, if you like, because it was a hybrid, of different styles of music, and like you say, the enemy picked up on us, and
who was the journalist who particularly loved the band? Was there a particular journalist that sort of championed?
I think I'm not sure. I mean, there are a few, but I think Amric Rai was one of them. I don't know. I can't remember the name.
No, I just wondered if there was particular. So when that came out, obviously that was your debut album. Coming on to the next one for Virgin, who probably were thinking that didn't sell a huge amount of copies. What was the atmosphere like for your follow-up album, Weak in the Presence of Beauty?
Right. Well, this is where I've got to cut out, because this is why I want you to talk to my brother, because...
shall I hit pause?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I can tell you, I mean, you can hit pause or edit, whatever you want to do, because...
Oh, I better hit pause, because otherwise I probably might forget.
Okay.
Fine, I'll hit... I don't want to forget to hit. Yes. So you do. Yeah. So we can avoid any embarrassment.
No. Mike went on to record that, and then I wanted to put my own thing together. So I put Everyday People together at that point.
Right, blimey. So that was your next kind of maneuver. So this is kind of the mid-'80s at this point, actually. I mean, there was a lot going on, because I mean, I was obsessed with John Peel at that stage, and he was playing all this, rap music from America, the Bundy Boys.
Sure.
There was a lot, and there was the indie pop scene at this point, wasn't there? As well as, Thatcher's Britain, huge amount of high unemployment. I think one of the reasons there were so many bands was that people could sign on the dole so easily, and there was job seekers allowance and enterprise allowance scheme. So it was kind of all good stuff for bands, wasn't it? So so what was it like leaving that band and then being on your, starting a new combo?
I started writing with Desi Campbell, the singer, and then and we recorded in New York with a guy called Stuart Levine, who was. We signed to EMI, and we were looking for a producer, and they said, "Well, we've got this guy for you. You call Stuart Levine." Stuart Levine is an old jazzer. but he's also he's produced everybody from James Brown, Bill Withers, to everybody else, and he'd also produced Simply Red.
Yes.
And so
God, and also a lot of African music as well, hasn't he? As well as
absolutely,
jazz.
oh yeah, he was a great friend of the trumpet player Hugh Masekela.
Yes, and the Crusaders.
Thank you. Yeah, you've got it. You've done your research.
Yeah,
Or
God.
you're just a big music fan.
Yes, well, absolutely. So that was very fortunate to sort of go from Virgin to EMI then.
Yeah, I mean, we just, we caught on, and then so we went back to New York, and we put a band together. Obviously, it was just the two of us writing, but we had. We put a big band together. We, went on tour with Lisa Stansfield, and and we did a world tour and an American tour with her as a support band. But and then I got a call, and we did quite well. We did well in. We had 3 top 10s in Europe, in Germany, and that time.
Were you big in Italy or Spain? Was that your go-to?
Germany.
Germany. Ah, right.
Which was quite a big market at the time, and I moved to Germany at
Yes.
the time, obviously.
Well, I always remember Lemmy from Motorhead when he said when things are bad, the German market kept them going, because he said their fans were loyal. They would buy the merch. They would come and see you. You just thought, okay, thanks. You've just kept us going for another year. We'll go
What
back.
a great guy Lemmy was, man. I mean, I met him on a few occasions,
Yes.
What a wonderful guy.
Did you swap notes on or drugs? No. Did you swap notes on? Did you swap notes on bass guitar, or was it more just?
Well, I don't think he was much of a bass player, but anyway, that
he got a great sound.
Oh yeah, Rickenbacker. He was more of a do kind of guy. But I met him. Yeah, I met him a few times, Lemmy. But what a great guy. Yeah.
So did Everyday People, did that sell okay in Europe and sort of the American?
No, it did. I mean, we toured America, but it did really, really well in Europe. It did well enough. It got us into the black, if you know what I mean, because in those days, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this, albums used to cost, like 150, 200 grand to record, studios were so expensive, especially, nice studios to record in. So to recoup, and then you would have to. So we were invited to do a second album, and so, but in between, after we'd done the touring, I don't know if you want to move on to this.
No, yeah, I don't mind. So we got so we kind of got to the 90s here. You've got the album out.
Yeah.
You've done the touring with Lisa Stansfield, Europe, Germany, and then you're coming on thinking of the second album. Yeah. And now we've moved from the Thatcher years to John Major's 90s. What happens in this moment now?
Well, we're talking about sort of 1990, and we were, and Desi and I started doing demos for the second album, writing for the second album, and in between that, I got a call because I got a call to. Stuart basically loved the way I played, and he was calling me in to do different sessions in New York, and so he kind of, Desi and I, we didn't see eye to eye, about doing how we were going to record the second album. So I went to Italy. So I said, look, I've been asked to record an album, which turned out to be the Stars album.
Right.
With Simply Red, and so I said, I'm going to go to Italy while you do some writing. I'm going to go to Italy, and if it's okay with you, and I get permission from the EMI, and I'm going to go and record with them. So, but I'll come back, and I did. So I did a couple of months with Simply Red in Italy. Well, we started in Paris. And then we ended up moving to Italy, And then I went back, and so Desi and I continued writing a little bit, but it just didn't work out, man.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then, then I got a call from Mick Hucknall, and who said, "Hey, do you want to join group or what?" So,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because a guy who a few years ago got in touch with me who'd been listening to Dear Old My Show, and he came across the Frantic Elevators, who
oh
were
yeah, wow.
which was a Manchester-based band which
The
featured
precursor.
with the and I remember, Money Too Tight to Mention and
Yeah,
that kind of work in the 80s.
yeah.
But yeah, he said, oh, I've listened to your show. You should try and get hold of some of these characters from Frantic Elevators.
Excellent.
One of the worst covers of all time.
Oh God, that looks awful.
I know.
What is he doing?
He looks like he's going to blow his head off with a gun.
Does it? I thought he was smoking a bong.
Well,
Sorry.
that would have made it better, really. But I think that it looks like he's about to. So that was
That
that was
does look awful.
that was the 70s, obviously.
Well,
Yes, there you go. That's Mick. So yeah, so what was it like being in Paris and then Italy? Was that working on the album Stars?
yeah, we started in Paris, and then but that was 1991, and it was during the first Gulf War actually, and our hotel. I mean, the studio wasn't great. Stuart Levine was in charge. He was the producer, and I'd never met any of the band before. I was just called in as a hired gun,
Yes.
so kind of thing. So and our hotel was between the Israeli embassy and the Palestinian embassy or something, and it was really so. Every time we were coming back from the studio to the hotel, it was almost like warfare in just next to the Champs-Élysées. So we decided to decamp to Venice.
Yeah, well, that was a wise choice, actually. I think psychically that would have been a bit upsetting, really. And did you enjoy sort of stepping into a band that had already been together for sort of quite a period of time?
Absolutely, because since I've been a kid, a lot of my main influences, has been as a musician, and so I've been able to sort of walk into a studio and just listen to the song and be able to play on it. And I've been lucky enough for them to ask me back, and sort of say, "Would you like to play on the album?" And which is what happened with Simply Red. They said, we love the way you play on the album, and would you like to join the band? And so subsequently I went on tour with Simply Red for 3 years after that.
My God, that must have been. I bet you had nice hotels, didn't you?
No, but it really was nice, and not that I ever sought that kind of. I just love playing, and the band was wonderful. I mean, really, Mick, for all. And I mean, I'm sure you're aware that people, he's had a lot of bad press, Mick, but he really is, a real, as much as yourself, a music fan.
Yes, I know. Well, yes, I mean, I don't. I mean, it's one of those artists with age, you just think, as long as people are trying to do the best or be nice and kind to each other, I sort of can let go of any angst that I might have had when I was younger. With because music was quite tribal back then, wasn't it? So
It was,
there was like bands that I ignored because I thought, no, you're in that world, and that's not mine. I'm in this world, and I really liked their first album and that first single, and then after that, I sort of had lost a bit of interest in them. But they were just there. But it's a bit like if someone says I hate Enya, you think, how can you hate Enya?
No, you can't.
No, you can't, can you? That's right. It's like there's worse things in life than Enya or Sade, and you think, just let go, just enjoy it. It's music. It might not be your music, but there are people in our world now on the political front that you think, yeah, I can imagine you could. It's kind of I don't like hating anything, but it's. But Enya, she's lovely. So anyway,
yeah, I mean, it's just kind of it is what it is. It washes over you. In fact, when we did the world so-called World Music Awards in Monaco, and she was sitting next to and he came on, and she was a lovely girl. I mean, it's not the sort of music I would never go out and buy it, but at
No.
the same time, it was well produced and it washed over people, but I am still quite. I'm still quite tribal in ways. I don't want to lose that. I don't.
No.
I don't want to lose my angst,
No, don't
even
lose
at
the
my
angst.
age.
No. We can all. Yeah, but I think you can notice it now, and then you know when to let go of the angst.
Sure.
Whereas when you're younger, sometimes the angst is harder to
It
acknowledge
takes over, doesn't it?
and let go because you realise it's not a good thing to have all the time.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, thank you for anyway. So with the Simply Red, which must have been a really nice way to spend the first part of the 90s, what happened post Simply Red then?
Right. Okay. Well, Mike and I reconnected. My brother and I reconnected. I mean, he produced and wrote, a couple of the Take That albums. I will say one thing about Mike, which is not unpleasant. You don't need to pause. He has more of an ear for the commercial.
Yes.
So he did the everyday. Not everyday people. He did the Take That album. Take That albums, and he did quite a few other albums of note, which I can't recall at the moment. And then we decided to work together again. We put a production company together. And it was. I'm gonna kick myself for this, but you'll probably laugh your socks off. So, and we put a production company together, and then we started working for the BBC, and then we produced and wrote for Bob the Builder,
Nice.
the Tweenies, 2 albums.
What was that one?
The Tweenies.
Oh, the Tween, right, yes.
The Tweenies. I'm going to regret saying this, man. No, but it was kind of, and it was quite fun because you were working with actors, and we were working in Trevor Horn's studio a lot, and you were working with actors, and it was actually quite creative in a way, even though it sounds a bit crap on the surface.
Yeah, well,
you can stifle your laughing later.
I think, to be honest, no. I mean, to be honest, you get to a point in life, and I don't know if you remember this, but if back in those days, if somebody signed to a major record label, if you were an indie kid and someone signed to a major record label, you were horrified and thought they'd sold out. And now I look back and think that's terrible. It's like, why worry? And if someone does an advert, you think, oh, that's terrible. But now you just think, I'm pleased you got paid. It's like I'm pleased that gave you some time to potentially.
Yeah.
To not be completely on the streets begging for money, and just I mean, or working in a warehouse when you're not playing gigs. It's a bit like, well, actually, there is still a skill in it. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to advertise it too.
No, I would.
The work of Bob the Builder, but then you just think, well, you got to have, you can't be an idealistic person all your life, and to be honest, there's worse things to do than make music for Bob the Builder. Or
oh God, no, of course, and I've always been, like I say, since I've been a musician, since I started with 16 and a half, and I'm now 66. I've managed to touch wood, keep things rolling over as a.
Well, it's interesting because I did an interview with a drummer who'd been with David Bowie on his Glass Spider tour, and after and he did he's been with various other people, but he said for a period of time he was the drummer in those New York musicals that you were in the pit playing drums, and you just did that for about 20 years, and sometimes you think, actually, I'm going to be busy tonight, I'll get my mate in, he can play the drums, I'm going to go and do a gig.
Yeah.
If that works out, bye-bye musical theatre. No, it doesn't. I'm back on the drums under the pit playing. But it kept him going, and actually then he said, accidentally he paid certain amount of money, or got paid and got his pension, which he hadn't really thought about his pension when this is an American musician, and went, thank God I had that 20 years in those, musical theatre things in New York? Because
Well, obviously he learned how to play, and he played. Yeah, I think I know the drummer you're talking about. You spoke to some good people. Who's the guitar player you spoke about? Where you play with David Bowie?
well, there was the
It was Carlos Alomar. I remember.
Earl Slick I've done an interview with, and quite a few of those. I've tried to hook up with as many people who played with David Bowie as possible. So
Oh God, we met David in Amsterdam when he was doing the Tin Machine thing, and for me, David Bowie's always been one. You meet David. I mean, there are not many people I'm speechless talking to, but he walked into our dressing room. The first thing he said, because I think he'd met Mick Hucknall before, he went, "All right, Mick," and into our dressing room, and I said, "It's David Bowie. It's David Bowie," and he just walked around. And he was such a self-effacing guy, which of course you would think, but his lyrics and all this, and the way he is, he is who he is. Like I say, I've met some wonderful people, played with some wonderful people, but David Bowie was one of the people that I was actually. Hello.
Yes, well, I know it's amazing, really. So with that production company you did, with the BBC, how long did that last for?
That lasted for about sort of 6 or 7 years, and then I again, my brother and I took a furlough, and I moved to Spain, and I moved to Madrid, and I had which is where I live now most of the time.
Did you keep the music going?
Oh yeah. I produced quite a few Spanish bands, and they wanted more of a sort of session production thing.
Yes.
Madrid.
Well, it's interesting because I've done, both American and German. Quite a lot of Germans have sort of gone down to Spain, for the weather, the culture, the kind of community. So it sounds like there's, quite a community that is slowly developing down in Spain.
It is in Spain, but there is. There is a community, but the main thing. I've lived in a few cities in Madrid. My daughter's Spanish. Well, she's half Spanish, obviously, and she's in Madrid. She's 23 now, my daughter, and I lived in Seville, Madrid, Barcelona, Seville, Madrid. It's a very insular sort of, you don't get much export, but it's like, you get your flamenco and your Spanish pop is it's crap, I'm saying. Sorry, you can edit that if you want.
No, it's not.
I'm sure a lot of the people, Spanish pop is not good. So I got a lot of work as a, as a producer, because they wanted, sort of somebody who could, bring the sort of like English American production values to Spanish pop.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've done that, and I've recently been writing. I don't know if I told you. My brother and I wrote a big hit for Kenny Thomas, "Thinking About Your Love Tonight." Today.
Oh, no.
Thinking about, we wrote that together, and so I've hooked up with Kenny again, Kenny Thomas, and I've been writing for him more recently. Yeah.
Blimey! So you're still very much active on the music front.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, of course. What else can I do?
Well, this is tricky. So that was the kind of, you were sort of getting into the O years, after the new millennium. So did you go from that production company to Spain at that point?
To Spain, yeah.
And
I lived in Spain for 12 years, yeah.
Right, and then that's where you've been sort of doing different musical projects.
Yeah.
With your back catalogue, has anyone ever sort of archived all the bits and pieces, like with Floy Joy? Has that ever sort of come out as a nice box set or anything like that?
No, I've never really thought about that. No.
It's kind of weird. I just kind of think that it would be one of those things that, because I've been noticing that people more and more, especially people like Cherry Red Echo, go, right, we're going to do a nice 3 CD box set, the 2 albums and all the outtakes and a few live tracks, nice sleeve notes, some nice pictures.
To be quite honest, David, I've never even thought about it. I mean, I've got so many sort of discs, sort of, especially from the, from stuff I've written, but also from obviously a lot from the Stars album, because it was a massive seller. What I did with those is I gave them to charity for them to auction, because there's one thing, you walk into someone's house and you see, and so I've got one platinum disc. I've auctioned all my discs off, and they did quite well. There's for 750 quid for various charities. You sign them, and I've never been a collector of my own stuff. In fact, I don't even think I have. You just shown me what
a single that I've got.
Yeah. I don't think I have one. I don't know if it's my carelessness, or moving a lot. But I've never been a sort of like. Is it archivist?
Yes, basically, it's somebody who's so likes to document and sort of. No. It's kind of thinking, I'll keep this, and then one day I'll do something with it.
Yeah, no, I haven't. No, I mean, I've still got all my basses and my guitars and stuff like that, obviously, because they'll be passed on to my kids and stuff,
Yes. And how did you survive or cope with lockdown, that happened at the beginning of this decade? Was that a period of difficulty?
No, I was actually in Spain at the time. I moved back to Spain in a place called, where was it? I can't remember. I was in the southern coast of Spain, and I just stayed at home and wrote. I played some flamenco guitar as well, and I just stayed at home and played, and stayed in the flat and played, and I was quite happy with that, I did write a song, and sort of, and I had some friends from New York play on it, and it was called "When This Is Over," which was released. It was about obviously it was about when we were all sort of like entombed.
Yes, in a bubble of one.
Yeah, in a bubble of what the fuck do we do next?
Yes, this is all rather. Do you still get a nice little kind of moment or an earner with the Simply Red moment? Do you still go, oh, that's a relief? Does that still sort of give you financial sort of an income from that period?
It does, yeah. I would say, yeah. It does. Yeah, of course. It's like I say, it was a big selling album. I don't like to talk about money or anything.
No, God, no, it's a bit grubby. Yes.
Yeah, it is a bit grubby, but yeah, of course, because I think they've just done their 40th anniversary tour, and as they tour, even though I'm not obviously not playing with them anymore at the moment, they when they're promoting around the world, and they're still very popular around the world, and Stars was the biggest selling record. Of course, that brings in some income, yeah.
Yeah, God, no, that's handy. So look, on your Facebook page, you've got another band called Bazooka Joe.
That's right.
Is this your Spanish band?
No. This is a band that I put together. I mean, some of them are my tunes, but a lot of them are the tunes that I grew up with, like the soul funk tunes, and I just put the band together just to celebrate, what I've done. They're a great band, I mean, some of the, Paul Carrick and people, that, Paul.
Yes.
A couple of the guys, they play with his band, but no, it's a fun band, Mm-hmm.
So yes, Paul Carrick. Yeah, that's quite an amazing little lineup. So is this a band that you just sort of pull together when you got the odd gig and you say, we're just going to do it. We've got this set list. We all know what we're doing. Let's just get down there and give the crowd a good time.
Yeah, and like I say, David, I try to when I compose a set, compile a set list, I try to make it as obscure as I can. The sort of like Quincy Jones stuff and that kind of thing. But it always goes down so well. And we always get a great audience, and so that's just fun.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that's
Right.
good. And what have you got lined up for 2026 as we sort of trundle to another year around the corner? Are there projects that you got lined up?
Just well, let me think about that. Yeah, I mean, mainly, I have a studio, and with my partner Susan, she's a songwriter, Susan Mills, and we write for other people, but and we just sort of see. We throw it at the wall, see if something sticks. But she's a great writer. She's a lyricist, so I write the music, and she'll write the music. Oh, sorry, I'll write the music, and she'll
do the lyrics. Yes, that's a nice little thing.
So that's what we're working on at the moment.
And do you sort of see if other people will take this to do other musicians, singers occasionally sort of go, oh yes, that's a great song.
Well, I'll send you something. I'll send you the latest demo, David, and you can have a listen to it.
That's fantastic.
And so that's what it looks like for me in the future.
Yes, this is good. Well, that's 2026. I noticed you also got a new cat in life as well.
A new cat?
Did you? There's a picture of a cat on your Facebook page.
Oh, that's Susan's cat. We had to get rid of him. He was terrible. Every time I went from the bedroom, he went for everything. I mean, I had to make sure I had my underpants on.
Blimey. There you go.
He was a vicious little bugger.
Oh, right. So he's no longer there.
I mean, I don't mean to be crude. You may have to.
Yeah, no. Well, yes, that's fine. These things happen. But look, well, thank you again for your time. It's been
very
amazing.
welcome.
It's been amazing to hear your story, and also, yes, to meet the person behind the great song, which, and
thank you, man.
So thank you for that. And yes, well, I hope it all goes well with your sorting out all the bits and pieces in Sheffield, as well as getting back to Spain. But yes, and thank you for I mean, it's a bit like an ABBA song, isn't it? Thank you for the music. Sorry, that was so corny, wasn't it? But yeah, well, thanks again. And yeah, keep in touch. It'll be nice. And I'll keep looking out for other projects that you've got lined up.
All
and
right.
Hopefully...
Well, let me know if you're going to air it, let me know when.
Yes, I will. And I'll send you a link.
Are you going to air it?
Yes, God, definitely air it. God. Oh, yeah, I love to air these. I mean, people love, I think people find it very curious, the guests I get, because they go, oh, God, I remember that band. Because as like you get the same people, appearing in telly and papers, and you've heard their story, and there's all these other people that you think, I haven't heard his story, so it's nice. And people go, God, I remember that album, because those records that we had in the 80s, you've got to remember, like the NME had a circulation of something like 100,000, didn't they?
Yeah.
And there was the NME Melody Maker Sounds, you had John Peel, Janice Long, Kim Jensen.
We did the John Peel. Yeah, we did those shows in Maida Vale a couple of times. Yeah,
which was just so it was kind of it's all embedded in our consciousness. And now that we're all a little bit older, probably, and sometimes kind of not just reminiscing, but yeah, probably reminiscing, kind of think, God, I want to hear that again. And actually, a lot of the music I think is amazing. Actually,
oh yeah, you could introduce a Burn Down a Rhythm.
I know, and people need to hear that song. Actually, it's been nice. I've been watching some nice little clips, that you've got of the band and yourself.
Cool.
on YouTube, which is very, very funky, actually. So yes. Well, look, take care.
It's been a pleasure. Absolutely.
It has been a very pleasure, and yes, and like I said, I know you're probably thinking, oh, everyone wants to talk about Simply Red, but it was more the Floy Joy that I.
Yeah, I know, I realise that. Yeah.
But it's nice to hear. It's always nice to know that a musician from their band also then goes and does something quite bonkers,
Sure.
And
Okay. Well,
take care. Look,
let me know if it's going to be out, so I can tune in.
tune in. Okay, look, take care and have a lovely winter.
You have a lovely Christmas as well.
Yeah, take care. See you later.
Cheers,
Bye.
man. Bye. Bye.
I know, I love the ending. That's why I always keep them in. It will make me smile in later life. Anyway, a massive thank you to Shaun Ward for giving me the time for that interview, talking about his life in music, and especially Floy Joy, who we loved so much. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.